Welcome to the Creative Leadership Network. This week's theme, there's been a lot of talk about Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. Well, there's been a lot of perspective out there, a lot of information. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to debunk that information. We always need to start with what? We need to start with the basis of facts. And if there is information out there that is misleading you guys, you need to know about it. So number one, we're going to start with what information is out there, what's misleading you, and then we're going to jump right in. Now, you know how I do it right here at TCLN Network. I am IBK, and I created this platform so that you and I can learn and grow through research, through education, but taking those news events and bringing them and making them relevant to our lives and to the things that we want to achieve in this world. Now, understand this one thing. I am going to talk about this from this perspective of leadership. It's very, very important that we understand who's involved, what's involved. And in this case, these are two young boys who never knew each other before, and they collided. They had an incident. One has been sent off to prison. And do you understand that? Which I know you do, right? And so we're not going to talk about it from that perspective. People have been hitting it from the angle of race. I don't want to discuss that. You guys know me. I've talked about the police force. I've talked about all kind of things that have happened to us in our lifetime. And there's been too many Black people who have thrown us in jails, who have stepped on us. So I don't want to talk about it from the point of race. I know people like to do that. I don't. I like to keep it neutral so that way we can learn some of the things that mainstream media is not questioning or is not talking about. So you have two teen boys and then you have too many grown folks. So let's talk about the grown people. That's what I want to talk about today on TCLN. And then number three, just in case you have not, you need to go check out the TCLN Advantage. That is the new newsletter. That's where the detailed information, the stuff that we really need to dive into so that we can really educate ourselves, to elevate ourselves, and so that you also and I can have the leadership advantage. That's what you need to go check. If you all have not, make sure you check out Substack and the TCLN Advantage newsletter. That link is right in the description below at IBK Media Productions Linktree.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah. You know I'm always honest. There ain't no way I'm ever stopping till I'm on top, yeah.
Welcome back to TCLN Network. I'm IBK. Today's theme is the adults in the room. Two young boys and too many grown folks. Let's talk about it, guys. The conversation has been about race. It has been about the divide. It has also been about Republicans and Democrats. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who should be punished? Who should not be punished? Now, what I want to talk about right here on TCLN is what about the big grown folks? You know, everybody who has been involved in this particular event. There's a reason why I want to talk to you about that. And number one, I was once a child myself. So just in case you haven't heard my story, let me give you just a tidbit. I was once 13, 14, 15 years old. Never been in trouble before. You know, staying in foster care. Police come, show up, take me off to another state. Nobody knows, 3 or 4 in the morning. Next thing you know, I am locked up for a case with some other people, lots of grown people involved, that could have served me 50 years or more. No, I did not commit a murder. No, that I did not kill anyone. But at the same time, this is how serious it was. And I was certified by the court to be tried as an adult, me and 4 other teens. So I would love for you to go to Substack again, check that story out so you guys can have the insight to know and understand why this story is meaningful to me and why I wanted to talk about it in deeper depth. Okay? What concerns me about this is that many grown people are discussing 2 young teens' lives. They're all wrapped around the outcomes, what happened, this and this and that. But what they haven't touched on is what led up to these events. Do you think that these young boys just woke up out of bed one day and say, hey, I want to find me somebody that I can go start a fight with. I want to just go inside their tent, start a fight with them and initiate something, and then one ends up dead. Do you think the other one said, I want to wake up out of my bed, I want to push somebody, get them out my tent, I just want to start a fight, and then I end up deceased, and the other one say I end up in prison? Of course not, you guys. These are two young boys who had two great dreams to become track stars. So what led up? You understand what I'm saying? People just don't spark an event and then one end up dead and one end up in prison. We argue every day, don't we? Not just us, but young people. They argue every single day, but they don't end up in prison, and they don't what? End up dead. So what are the events that led up to this? I think this is what we are not really discussing and really touching on. And trust me, it's always some big grown folk involved. These two teenagers are receiving most of the publicity, and the light is shined on them, and everybody is talking about it. But what we're missing is the leadership. We're missing leadership. And in this particular situation, leadership are the parents, the defense, the prosecution, and many of the other adults who were actually involved around these young boys' life. This means the actual people, adults who were assigned to the football track team or whatever, the tents and all that kind of stuff. They didn't just have tents out there by themselves. There needed to be some adults who were overseeing them, right? 17, these are young guys, right? 16, 17, 18 years old. So again, we're talking about what are some of the events. See, before they got to this collide, they've been living their lives. They have been living their lives, right? They've been instructed by their parents. They've watched their parents live. They watched their parents interact with conflict. They've also watched the peers around them interact with conflict. They've watched our culture. Do you understand what I'm saying? Big grown adults is what I'm telling you. So again, let's kind of tap into that, okay? Because if we miss out on the point, which is being made, the influences in these young people's lives, then I think we miss the point altogether. And at TCLN Network, we don't try to miss the point. We try to get to the point. Now, make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you are sharing this video, especially with a young person, because I want a young person to understand. You may need to be an adult and you may need to watch it with them, but I would love for them to understand just how serious these laws are. Now, I'm in the state of Texas. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's been a lot of misinformation out there. Number one, there's been misinformation about white people and the state of Texas. And people don't know that the majority of people in the state of Texas are not just white people. When you're looking at Collin County, when you're looking at, what do you call Carrollton, Texas? You understand what I'm saying? Part Collin, part part Dallas, and also part Plano, all these different places. You fail to realize it's not just white people. That was back in the day. You're looking at a lot of people from India. You're looking at a lot of Latinas. You are looking at a lot of Asians. You understand what I'm saying? So people get it mixed up. They giving you misinformation. I came across a young lady on YouTube. I'm sorry, not YouTube. I came across a young lady on TikTok. You understand what I'm saying? I had to TikTok. I came across this young lady and she was actually discussing that because she's out of Texas too. And she was like, look, guys, you think it's about a lot about white people. What people fail to realize, there are a predominant of races that stay in these places, and it's not just white people. So there's just a lot of mixed information out there, right? And again, she is the one who reminded me, this particular TikTok, that it is so true that the Collin County area that they're talking about, it is not just white people. There are a lot of people from India that occupy Collin County and where those young boys were situated. Now, another thing, if you was not paying attention, the mother makes it known that, do you understand what I'm saying? The young boy and her family, when it comes to Karmelo Anthony, are not from Texas. They moved here so that they can have a better life, so that they can do things better. You understand what I'm saying? And you're right. They don't come from a sloppy background or a poor background. This young person and his family actually relocated here for better opportunity. All right. So there's a lot of misinformation. And let me get to some of that misinformation just so you guys can really understand what we need to debunk.
This clip is used for commentary, analysis, and education under Section 107 of the Copyright Act.
They didn't give Karmelo Anthony 35 years in prison because he's black. They gave him 35 years in prison because his parents didn't care about him. Let me tell you why. Everybody has an arraignment and everybody's offered a plea deal. Everybody's offered a plea deal, everybody. If he would have pled guilty, he could have got maybe 7 years, 5 years, something small. But if he pled guilty, that would have cut his family's fundraiser short. You know, the fundraiser they bought $1 million home with, or something like that. If he would have pled guilty, it probably would have been a manslaughter charge, something like that. Prosecutors would have worked out a deal. No, but his parents said, no, you're gonna plead not guilty. We want you to go to trial. We're gonna keep the fundraiser going. So he didn't receive 35 years because he was black. He received 35 years because the people who were supposed to be looking after him, they didn't have his best interest. They only wanted that money. And because of that.
My name is Kayla Hayes. I am the mother of Karmelo Anthony. 3 years ago, my family moved to North Texas searching for a better life. Like so many other families, we wanted to give our children the future we did not have. My husband works hard every single day to provide for us, to make sure we're in the best financial position possible. As a stay-at-home mom, I made it my life's mission to ensure our children are loved, nurtured, and supported every step of the way. In wake of this tragic incident, our family has been under attack. Whatever you think what happened between Karmelo and the Metcalf boys, my 3 younger children, my husband, and I didn't do anything to deserve to be threatened, harassed, and lied about. The lies and false accusations that have been said about us, especially over the past week, has been overwhelming. The lies and their amplification put my family in danger, as well as everyone in our community, everyone involved in the investigation, from the police, the attorneys, and the court staff. Our address and my husband's previous employer's address has been put on all social media platforms. My husband had to take a leave of absence because he's afraid what may happen to our family. We have endured death threats. My 13-year-old daughter is afraid to sleep in her own bedroom because she's fearful of what may happen to her. And let me be clear, the claims that were used about the public donation to buy a home or anything else are completely false.
As you can see, the family did not do that. And I wanted to show you what someone had to say, but I also wanted to show you what the mother and the father had to say. So a lot of times, guys, if we're not careful, myself including you, and I'm not throwing nobody to the fishes or to the water and to the sharks. What I'm saying is that we need to constantly remind ourselves that when we get on these stories or we're talking about these stories, some of us have a good heart and we want to do the right thing. But some people, they really, truly love to slander and they really, truly love to make up stories. So we have to be careful, right? Because we don't want to get in a moment where somebody is suffering and we're just throwing out junk out there and we're not taking into consideration how people really feel, right? So we need to be careful with that. Number 2, I want to talk about Cardi B. Misinformation. It was an AI clip. It spread it all over. Instead of people looking at it for AI for what it was, Cardi B did not commit herself to donating $3 million. You understand what I'm saying? To help out. Now, I'm pretty sure she's heard of this story. And I'm pretty sure, it came across because Cardi B in the culture, the girl be in the streets. She's about these streets. She be in the streets. But she did not say that. Okay, guys. So a lot of people just started committing her money, committing her time. And that's not good to do. Why? It's not that people don't care, But to just throw people to the wolves and trying to make it look like that this is what they should be doing. She's an entertainer. She's not always being an activist. And you can't always commit people's money when they have not committed their money. Maybe they have the money at the time, maybe they don't. It doesn't mean that they don't care, but you have to be careful with listening to stuff out there. People just start stuff, and it's just wrong. That is so wrong. So number two, the third thing I want to hit on is the young boys themselves. There was a lot of rumors surrounded around these young boys. You understand what I'm saying? And there were facts that just hadn't came out. Number one, let's talk about the plea deal. They said that the young boy was given a plea deal. Karmelo Anthony, his family was given a plea deal, and they did not take it. You understand what I'm saying? That information was not disclosed to us, so we don't know. Now, I do know this. I will say this. Anytime in criminal law, anytime something going on, prosecution is always negotiating. Defense is always, open to what the prosecution has to say. Again, that information wasn't disclosed to us, so we just can't start making up rumors. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we were there, then we can say something. But if we are not there, we can only go by what they have to say to us to make sure we stay balanced, right? So those are some of the things that I wanted to cover so that we can understand those are rumors. It's a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, and we have to be careful how we handle these things. If we choose to discuss something of this nature, we have to remember we have families, so we need to watch what we say and how we say it. Okay? So now that we have debunked all that false information out of the way, let me get to the crux of these big grown adults. When I was that age, when I was about 15 and all that stuff happened to me, you have to go find out the story at the newsletter because it does get a little bit of detail. But what I am saying is that there were big grown adults in my life. Now, I'm not saying my situation is Karmelo's situation, but what I am saying is that no matter what his situation is, my situation or anybody else's situation, there are always big grown adults that are involved. And sometimes these adults are either making the correct decisions or they are not, but it do affect the outcomes. You understand what I'm saying? Leadership all around you, because no matter if people consider themselves a leader or not, at the end of the day, that ship is still leading your life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because at that age, there are some things you just have no control over. And so that's why I'm saying, what is it that led up to this collision like that? Like I said, people fight and fuss all the time, but they don't end up in prisons and they don't end up deceased. And people be, working it out, cussing you out, your mama out, your daddy out, your sister and your cat and your dog. Do you understand that? So what are these events? What is this collision like this? Why these young boys? You're living in America. You got millions of young teens. Why this? Why this city? Why this town? Why these people? And why these two? And most of all, and most important, the leadership that is tied to this. So let's go there, guys. So when teenagers become, especially young people who kill or who are deceased or whatever the situation may be, they become the center of the headline. But we rarely touch on what needs to be touched on. What got them there? And who are the adults who were involved? Who are the influences? Do you understand? It's always influences. You don't just wake up out your bed, bam. What are the influences? So the leadership analysis should never just stop at the teens. It should definitely involve the adults. What systems, what institutions, what parental care, what influencers, what teachers, what social media, all these things we have today. What are the influencing factors? You understand what I'm saying? What was the thing that sparked and ignite that trigger? Because while teens do make decisions, you understand what I'm saying, sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional, it is still the adults who have been a part of shaping their environments. You understand what I'm saying? That could be good information, that could be not so good information. So what were their parents teaching them along the way? Let's touch on that. I don't know. I wasn't in their home. I can just give a little bit of insight, okay? So, do many adults tell their children to stand up for themselves? Don't let anyone disrespect you, fight back, never back down. But there are fewer adults that teach their children how to disengage from confrontation, how to absorb the insult without responding in ways that could ruin their lives. Also, how to avoid turning a temporary conflict into a permanent consequence. So, right, I remember growing up, guys, let me tell you this. I remember growing up, this is what my grandmother would teach me all the time. She said, listen here. She called me BC when I was a little girl. Listen here, BC. Let me tell you something. She said, it don't matter what people say about you. People going to always be talking, honey. She said, so let them talk. It doesn't matter. She said, but if somebody put their hands on you, if they put their hands on you, she said, you better whoop they butt. And she said, if you don't whoop they butt, I'm going to whoop your butt when you get home. Now, she didn't say but, she said the other word, right? But that's what she was basically teaching us. She was basically teaching us, it don't matter what people say. Ignore the stuff. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Remember that sticks and stones may hurt your bones. Well, but words may never hurt you. Sometimes words do hurt, right? So, but she was teaching us separate from the words. Just as long as somebody do not hurt you or harm you physically, and if they do that, you have a right to protect yourself. That's basically what she was saying, right? Don't be a pussy. Don't be a whoops. That's basically what she was saying. But in between that, there's a lost faculty. And what is that lost faculty? How, when someone says something, you understand what I'm saying? How to disengage, how to disengage. So they teach us this end and forget that end. But sometimes you can't move away right away. So how do you disengage? You understand what I'm saying? How do you disengage? And a lot of times young people are not taught that, or there may be the opposite of that. There may be people that teach their kids, oh, just walk away and never say nothing. Well, after a while, it begins to build up, guys. You can't keep doing that over and over and over and over. After a while, people just stomping on you, stomping on you, stomping on you. You understand what I'm saying? Then that begins to weaken the soul and weaken the spirit. You understand? And so there has to be a balance, is what I'm saying. So sometimes it depends on what these leading factors that was instilled in young people that may lead up, to how they deal with conflict. So I'm not saying with the Metcalf or the Anthony family, I don't know them. But what I am saying is that today we need to face these issues, because on camera, people going to say the stuff that feel good. But behind closed doors, we didn't see how these families were living. Do you understand that? And we didn't see how these young people were living. So we only know what people say on camera. Okay. Now, let's get to the prosecution and what's known as the district attorney, right? So, or the defense, right? So again, how have they been living? You understand what I'm saying? What are they influencing factors? What are the things that make them think the way that they do? Because I don't care how much you go to a college. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care how much you learn your profession and you practice your profession. You still are what you call human being. And you were once a young person. And you're going to be thinking about that part. When you are defending, you understand what I'm saying? When you are doing some things, you're going to be thinking about that part of you as a young person. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're going to be thinking about that, and you're going to bring that to the table, and that's going to affect your judgment. So depending on how you were raised, depending on what you had to deal with, you understand what I'm saying? I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what your degree say. I don't care any of that. You're going to come from a point of view. All of that influences your decisions when you're bringing that to the table. Do you understand? These are the adults who played a role in these two young teens' lives. This is what I'm trying to get you to understand. Who are the coaches involved? Who are the coaches involved? What are the things that they've been instilling in these young people on these teams? You understand what I'm saying? All of that plays a factor. You understand? Also, their peers, the people who surround them, you understand, that may be older than them. Adults, we're talking about adults, and they may not be that much of an adult, like, they may not be in their 20s and, 30s and 40s, but they still close to age, but still considered as an adult. What was being said? What are the things? What are the influences? You understand what I'm saying? Because believe it or not, all of that plays a part. We may not want to admit it. We may just want to think, oh, these was two teams that knew what they were doing, and this Anthony guy, he knew what he was doing, and Metcalf knew what he was doing when he pushed them and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. Young people have conflict, but also young people have influences that have been in like spider webs that have been woven into the fabric of their being, into the energy of their being. And not just to mention that, what about the rain on that day? What about the stuff that was influencing? What about the conversations that was around them all that day? Do you understand that? Guys, you know how your life is when you get out there. You know how your life is. You don't just run and there's a situation. There was influence and there were factors. There was things being said. There was all of this. You understand? And we don't take that to a courtroom. We don't take that into consideration. We don't take that into judgment. What we do is we look at the situation and the attorneys come in, the defense, the prosecution, and they're looking for the evidence because that's what they've been taught. But no one's really bringing to the table the woven in fabric of the influences. I was once young, you was once young, and you and I both know that it's way deeper than you wake up out of your bed one day and that you just wanted to harm someone. I do admit there are cases where people intend to kill, intend to terminate, intend to harm. You know it, I know it. They can be young people too. Cause baby, we be hearing what some of the young folks be saying. And baby, some of the young folks is off the chains. I remember I heard a young person say one day, if we kill them, what's gonna become of their copyrights? Can we just take their copyrights? That's premeditated, baby. And don't you think I didn't stop to say something? I said, listen here, young person. Listen here now. And don't think I didn't stop to give them some advice. A lot of people won't give young people advice. They'll just hear them and keep going. But you never know. It may be your advice that no one ever told them that may save them from a prison or from death or from a situation. For the rest of this dialogue or conversation, because it's not just me talking, guys. You guys are going to be coming, you're going to be talking too. So I'm not by myself. You understand what I'm saying? But I just wanted to remind you, it's so much bigger than what meets the eye. You understand? Like I said, they don't wake up out their bed wanting that. They was thinking of a football career, dreams and hopes. You understand? That's different from premeditated. So everybody else has discussed the terms, the racials, the this, the injustice. And I just wanted to remind us of the leadership, the things, the factors that have not been woven in and factored in. I hope you have listened to the end. Make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you pick up my newsletter, the TCLN Advantage on Substack. It's right there in the description below. Guys, I want you to be more informed. In that newsletter is where you're going to find the goods. Do you understand that? And this is only going to make us better. It's only going to make us better. You understand? So guys, be beyond blessed. As the former anchor person, news reporter Dan Rather would say, courage, my friends, courage.